To be personally honest and everything, I think one of the dumbest things about modern day, like how society works, is how money works now. Main reason is because I don't like the idea of how like the gold standard is not really backed by money anymore. Like we don't have the gold standard on money. The thing that backs money is oil, and oil is only valuable if you have cars and stuff like that. I don't need oil for much else but a car anymore nowadays. And obviously, like maybe machinery, but once again, I'm not operating machinery, so don't need it. So, what value does oil have to me besides in my car? That's like my real honest to God question. Uh, but the whole thing behind what I'm just trying to point out to you guys is everything is the money that like you get isn't it's not really backed up. It's just not. And like what I mean by that is the value of the money isn't really valuable. It's more just a piece of paper, more than less nowadays. And obviously back in the day, it was more. It was more. It was a gold standard, meaning technically every dollar that was printed had to be backed up by the gold behind it. And with that, it gave the US dollar a lot more value to at least I think most people. Maybe not anymore, but I think at that time whenever US dollar price switched off to gold standard, probably a lot of people were very iffy about it afterwards. And honestly, I would be too. I'd be iffy as shit right now if like we went off the oil standard. That would be iffy. I wouldn't really even want to basically work anymore. Because then our money's really just backed up by nothing. But I really think the oil standard is not even a good thing, mainly just because, well, I think it is backed up by oil nowadays. I hope to God it still is. But I don't even think that's a good standard just because, once again, oils are not valuable unless you have a car or you're trying to light a lantern. No offense. I mean, obviously, there's different types of oils, but I think what they're more talking about is like the oil that you pull out of the ground and stuff, right? So that's kind of like what I'm trying to say here and I guess say is it doesn't really have much of a value unless if you have machinery. And not everybody even in this world has machinery yet. And look what I mean what I mean by that is like in some countries machinery just isn't very common yet. You know, you don't have it everywhere, so it's oil has no value to those people yet. Um, and obviously gold would. So it would just obviously makes more sense to go with gold. But I think also another issue with going on the gold standard again is that modern day gold is a lot more valuable. We use that for machine like computer components, complex computer components more than anything. Stuff like that. Gold actually has value nowadays more than what it did in the 16th and 1500s. And what I mean by that is you can actually build stuff out of gold now, comparably to back in the day, it was more used just for jewelry and decoration and stuff. Um, Not very useful. I mean, obviously it's useful in the aesthetic sense, but in the actual sense of progressing human technology, not really. So if we couldn't really use gold because gold is valuable, what should we really even go based on? I would have to sit here and say I don't really know. I'm gonna be honest with you. Maybe switch to like uranium or plutonium, seeing that obviously nuclear like reactors and stuff. And also, by the way, we could make a whole video about nuclear reactors and just the whole power plants and everything. Uh, but I think the whole thing behind what I'm trying to say here, get to the point of more than anything, is if it's not going to be backed up by gold and oil is not really valuable if you don't have it. Power plant uranium and stuff obviously wouldn't be valuable if you didn't have power plants. What should it be backed up by? It's a hard question. What about food? Okay, just hear me out now. What if money was backed up more by the food supply? Obviously, there's an overabundance of food in most areas, but in some areas it's not. So if you would back it up by the food standard and more of how would that kind of work? Maybe for like the more citizens fed, the more I don't know, man. I don't really know how that would work. That's scrap that idea. Scrap that idea. Don't click on the video. I'm not an idiot. Scrap that idea. I don't know. You would honestly it'd be a hard thing to figure out. Mainly because there's a lot of things that we now use for technology reasons and or just have been useful for a long time now. And not so much that we can just sit there and hold on to and just keep back from the whole world on and I guess your best thing would be like uranium and plutonium, just because you don't citizens technically don't use it, but it has a huge amount of value to the citizens because if your dollar's backed up on that, nuclear power plants in your nation technically give you energy and it's valuable. I guess you could also sit there and say about that about oil, but I once again still disagree with that. I just think oil is not used for enough, and with how the world's going, I think oil is going to be out of use in the next few hundred years, maybe 100 years or so. I just think technology needs to get around for electrical things, and I really think nuclear power plants are going to probably be the way of the future. It's just people have to be smarter and actually think before they put down a power plant places, because you just can't throw a power plant any place that you want. You kind of need to make sure that the area doesn't have much hurricanes, earthquakes, stuff like that. You have to make sure that the area is naturally not very much of a dangerous spot.